in the same way that George Orwell was able to be so accurate in 1984.
Understand what's going on around you. You are in a state of war, and you have precious little time to save yourself.
Resistance to violent hate speech is not another act of hate, it is an act of love.
The woke mentality is the most blatant expression of this mind virus I've ever seen.
What a racist question that was.
The university is ours. Expect resistance to anyone who opposes us.
State being demoralization.
You gave a speech in Jerusalem earlier this year.
Yes, I did.
Were there any awesome, fun dance parties that you guys had afterwards? Because I heard that Israelis are some of the best dancers in the world.
Foreign relations, defense systems. The next stage is crisis.
Who would be the highest in the hierarchy that we've heard of?
Well, you're looking at the Rothschild family.
But we know that the Rothschilds know way more.
Oh yeah, but that's they're way. Trump's not even in their league. To understand the world and daily events, we have to understand where the world is being taken. Once you can understand that, you can see us being taken there every day. If you go back to Aldous Huxley and Brave New World, it was published in 1932, he was describing this.
The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. The danger is real.
Leading the revolution of consciousness, leading the revolution of perception, leading the revolution of love. It's the one, the only, the unique, the iconic, David Icke.
Hey, nice to meet you, mate.
Yeah, nice to meet you, David.
We should do the elbow, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
No, stop that.
All right, so we're gonna get deep into many things.
Okay.
So, first of all, I wanted to ask you: do you think you leave the body in an unorthodox way, or do you think you leave the body in an orthodox way, being an orthodox way death, or do you think we'll stop decoding this reality in a not that long future?
Well, this reality that we call the world is a source of information, and the body is a means of decoding that information, if you like, just as the computer decodes Wi-Fi, so we decode what I call cosmic Wi-Fi, which is the quantum field that connects everything of possibility and probability. And so what we are experiencing is a frequency band. It's not a world as such, a world in the sense of you look through your eyes and you see everything in the space you're looking at. Well, this is well known that we don't do that. We're decoding a desperately narrow band of frequency called visible light. It's ridiculously small, and this body experience holds our attention through the five senses in that range of frequency. So when we leave the body, we leave that focus of attention. And when you look at near-death experiences and their very common themes of describing what happens, they go into an expanded state of consciousness. It varies in the way they experience it, but it's an expanded state of consciousness because our consciousness is no longer focused only on the narrow band of visible light, which if you put it in figures terms, according to mainstream science, the electromagnetic field is about 0.005% of what exists. Some say it's as high as 0.5%, tiny in other words. And visible light is just a smear of that 0.005%. So when you then look at this this human trait of perceiving we know what there is to know, and you see this all the time when someone else in whatever subject area says something that's different to the norm, those that have allowed themselves to be programmed to believe the norm then immediately react against those that are challenging the reality of the norm. And what that reaction and often abuse and ridicule that comes from those people is saying is, there's nothing more to know than I have been programmed to believe that I know. And you see it all the time. And so if you then break that down to what I've just said, what that is saying is, although I am perceiving only a smear of 0.005% of what is claimed to exist in the universe, and even though I'm getting my information on what to believe from a smear of possibility, i.e. the mainstream narrative, within that smear of 0.005%, despite all that, what I believe is how things are, and there's nothing more to know, so you're saying something different to what I believe, therefore you must be wrong. And, you know, I've always lived my life on the basis of what Socrates in ancient Greece is supposed to have said, which is, to paraphrase him, wisdom is knowing how little we know. And once you, and crikey, what I've just described is the confirmation of that. Wisdom is knowing how little we know. Once you realize that whatever we think we know, there's always vastly more to know, that keeps your mind open to other possibilities. It doesn't mean you believe everything, but you're open to other possibilities because you know that where you are in your perceptions, there's always more to know. But what we've seen, and you see this colossally in this woke mentality, is what I call the I am right mentality, whereby this is what I say is how things are, and that's it. There is no other possibility, only that. And because you're saying there are other possibilities, you are by definition wrong because I am right. And because you're wrong, what's the point in allowing you to have free speech? There's no point because you're wrong. And this is the perceptual loop that is driving not only human myopia of perception, it's also driving all the censorship and the deplatforming and the, what they call it, cancel culture today.
Yeah. So, do you think you'll leave the body by what people call death, or will stop decoding this reality?
Both.
Both.
I mean, what I've just described is both. You know, what we call death is the point where
putting down the telescope,
the body stops decoding this reality.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if I am on a computer and eventually the computer kind of blows up or breaks down, what does the computer do? It stops decoding the internet.
I know, but I mean, do you think you'll die of old age, or someone will shoot you? Well, I know they won't because you don't let them in the feedback loop. But
oh, you're talking about me personally?
Yes.
Oh no, I'll leave when I choose. Thanks.
So you leave it when you choose?
Oh yeah, and I won't be leaving until I've done everything possible, and there's no more I can do to expose what's going on. Absolutely, because you know. We create. Sorry, I thought you were talking generally, right?
No, I was talking about you.
About me. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I mean, you came here to do.
Yeah, and I won't believe it.
I've seen you got a quote by Betty Shine there.
Yeah. Somebody made that for me.
Yeah.
Sent that to me. The point is that we are creating reality through our perception, in other words, through our mind, our consciousness. And therefore, if I accept the possibility that other people have power over me, they will have power over me. Because that's how we got into this mess. The human population believes that the authorities have power over them.
I know.
They don't.
I've seen it, yeah.
They don't. The power the authorities use to feed back upon, recycle back on the population is only the power the population gives to them all the time. The authorities have no power except the population's perception that they have power. And if you break it down, you've seen the size of my flat. I live in this little flat on an island just off the south coast of England. And yet people on the other side of the world in Silicon Valley are so terrified of me. They have to, even though they control Silicon Valley and the major internet platforms and search engines, even though they control the mainstream media, even though they control governments, even though they control the banking system, even though they control the medical system, which is what we've seen in the last few months, even though they control the education system, even though they control all of that, they're so terrified of one bloke in a flat on the Isle of Wight that they have to delete him from YouTube, delete him from Facebook, etc., etc.
I like the metaphor you use about the...
Yeah. You're banging their heads in the amusement arcade game, yeah.
Because that's how it is, because they're like you say, they don't just censor out of fun, they censor because they have to. They have to, not least with their virus narrative is so insane, it's so ludicrous, it's so unsupportable by the evidence. The only way to protect it is to stop it being uncovered and that information being communicated. But this is where the real power is, and because if humanity ceased to cooperate with them in any significant number, the game's over. They have to divide and rule the population and set the population at war with themselves. And they do this, they've done this through playing cultures off against each other, countries off against each other. But what they've been doing now in recent times is creating this phenomenon called identity politics, where you first of all, there's two major elements to it. First of all, by creating this or subdividing our sense of identity from, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm black, I'm white, I'm whatever, down to the fine detail of my sexuality and my, everything. Yeah, the game of Scrabble that keeps getting longer.
This long list of letters. What's happening is that first of all, they're making people more myopic because they are self-identifying, not with being an expression of infinite state of awareness, but with smaller and smaller self-identity definitions. But every new definition can be played off against another new definition. So now, we've got activists in feminism in conflict with transgender activists.
I know that one of the leftist parties in Spain, they approve one of these. They're bloody communists. They approved one of these laws for transgender people, and the feminist party said, "We're out. We can't have this."
This is happening in this country as well. It's happening everywhere because all of this is globally coordinated.
Yeah.
And to understand the world and daily events, we have to understand where the world is being taken. Once you can understand that, you can see us being taken there every day. But if you don't know where we're being taken, then everything's random. What they're doing that for? That's crazy. That's madness. How stupid is that? But when you know where we're being taken and how we're being psychologically manipulated to be taken there, then all these things take on a completely different outlook. So if you look at the transgender thing, What's happening is the outcome. Know the outcome, and you'll see the journey.
Fused gender.
Is the end of human gender. That's where we're heading.
Do they want to assimilate us?
Yeah, they want a fusion of genders, so they create a no gender human. So what's happening now, especially among the young, is they are having their gender confused on the road to fusing it completely by massive changes in the human body. And if you go back to Aldous Huxley and Brave New World, it was published in 1932, he was describing this. And he was able to be so accurate all those decades ago, in the same way that George Orwell was able to be so accurate in 1948 with of course the famous book, certainly in modern times even more, 1984, because there are two worlds within one reality, and those worlds are based on knowledge, information. So you have the world that the population live in, and that is strictly limited in terms of information about reality, information about world events, information about everything. And it's specifically limited. It's what I call the postage stamp consensus. But in this other world, which is made up of secret societies,
we'll go deep into
particular bloodlines, why is this network made up of secret societies? Because they're holding secrets, and what are the secrets? Knowledge
of reality.
They want to keep from the general population. So they're passing it over at the highest level of the secret society network. Not Bill and Joe down the local lodge, Freemasonic lodge, but they're keeping it at the highest level of this web, this cult, and they're passing over not only knowledge of reality, they're passing on from generation to generation knowledge of where the world's being taken and how you take them there. And so if you can access this, and it's projected a very long time forward, this is why my books have been able to predict current events, etc. It's because it's so far projected. So someone like Aldous Huxley, who was an insider.
Was he, quote, a goodie?
Well,
I mean, you mentioned his brother Julian Huxley.
Yeah, Julian Huxley was a eugenicist. Certainly, I don't think I would. I would trust my life with Aldous Huxley, to be honest. But the point is that whether he was or whether he wasn't, his brother.
Why people like George Orwell and Aldous Huxley put this out?
Yeah. Well, George Orwell.
Eric Blair.
Eric Blair was.
Is there any relation to Tony Blair and the Fabian Society?
I don't know. He certainly he went to Eton, the elite college. That's for sure. Eric Blair, who became George Orwell. But the point is, how they came across the information is less important than the fact that the means they came across the information. And that is, if you can access this other world and its knowledge base.
You've quoted many times Dr. Richard Day.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Richard Day was an insider who in 1969 told a meeting of paediatricians in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, how the world was going to change. He told them in detail, 1969, which was only 20 years after Orwell's book came out, by the way. And he's proved to be extraordinarily accurate, including one line in which he said, we're going to make boys and girls the same.
I know. I mean, George Orwell said in 1984 that they were going to tear statues down.
Yeah.
Look at it now.
I know. Because tearing statues down is destroying history. And as Orwell said in 1984, he who controls,
the past.
The past.
Who controls the present.
And he who controls the present controls the past and
controls the future.
Controls the future. Where we've come from gives people a fix on where we are. If you can change the whole perception of where we've come from, it changes the perception of where we are.
What's the big reset after? I mean, you've talked about how they brought in the moon, it flipped the Earth over, there was this big flood. Yeah, and then how about 6,000 years ago, what happened in Sumer, Babylon, and all that area? Ever since, Has history been like that, more or less?
Well, just to finish that point I was mentioning about the two worlds, if you can access this other world of knowledge, either because you're part of it or because you, like me, spent 30 years uncovering it, you can predict the future very comfortably because...
But they can see through time as well.
Well, the future becomes the projected agenda. So if you can uncover the projected agenda, you're predicting the future. The whole point of what I do and others do, like me, is to alert enough people so that this agenda does not become reality.
I know.
In other words, you stop predicting the future. The idea is not to predict the future, it's to stop the future unfolding as this cult wants. But in terms of Babylon and Sumer, you can pick up a story in that whole period, in that area of the world, the Middle East, and you can bring it through to present day, and you know it even continues with the human sacrifice and such rituals, because in those days, of course, they used to do them openly because it was acceptable, and then eventually humanity matured enough to overwhelmingly find it not acceptable, but it still continued. It's just continued undercover. It's just continued in secret, and the same network of this global cult that expressed itself through the empires of Babylon and then moved to Rome and became the Roman Empire, then
British Empire
came to Britain to become the British Empire. They are still performing the rituals and working to the same agenda of total human control that they were back then. They were just further away then, but
I know, yeah.
Through globalization and technology, they're now in a position that they can go global and basically turn the world into global Babylon.
And in terms of people we know of the cult, I mean, you said that the real ones, we never know about them. Who would be the highest in the hierarchy that we've heard of? Like, would it be like Albert Pike or?
Oh no, he was way down, but
way down. So could you name an example?
Well, you're looking at the Rothschild family for a start. You're looking.
They're at the highest.
Not necessarily.
That we know.
Well, yeah, as we know,
they're higher than Albert Pike.
Oh well.
So
yeah,
when did he write that letter?
1871. He wrote the letter about the 3 world wars.
Yes.
But you know, like I say, Albert Pike wouldn't have been the only person to know that.
I know.
Other people in the upper levels of the cult or the inner circle of the cult would know that. And he was in that inner circle, but he wasn't anywhere near the top of the hierarchy. The Rockefellers too are at operational level are very, very significant. It was the Rockefellers through J.D. Rockefeller, the oil tycoon, that actually created modern medicine.
Yeah.
The scalpel and drug medicine, and marginalized and overwhelmingly deleted alternative methods of healing, which were the prime methods before that.
Yeah, I know they tried to suppress chiropractic in the US.
It was the Rockefellers that created the World Health Organization.
With the Rothschilds as well.
Well, yeah, but Bill Gates,
I mean,
who is now the biggest funder of the World Health Organization.
Is he a Rockefeller?
Well, he's very, very close to.
You've talked about
the families. The two
he
families
comes from the Rockefeller.
Yeah, the two families are very close. What I've said, extremely close. What I've said is I've seen genealogy that, if you go back far enough, brings the two families together.
I know that, but is Bill Gates a reptile?
Well, how do I know that? What I'm saying is that Bill Gates is a massive asset of this global cult. And if you're an asset at that level of the global cult, then you're connected to the psychopathic consciousness that actually holds this cult together. I've been talking for or writing for decades about what I call a mind virus. A mind virus which takes the form of an extremely imbalanced, distorted state of consciousness. not in a form, although it obviously takes form, but a very distorted state of consciousness. And people have different names for it. Ancient cultures have different names for it. The Native Americans call it variations of the word Wetiko. And this cult is, its consciousness is controlled by this, I'll use the term Wetiko mind virus.
do you call them archons?
Yeah, I call them archons.
From the
Well,
text
I
found
call
in
them archons,
Egypt.
but the Gnostics of Egypt, etc., call them archons, and other different cultures call them or it, the mind virus, something else. And this mind virus, in its distortion, basically is an inversion of
love.
A balanced inversion of love, an inversion of a balanced state of consciousness. And so whenever this mind virus is expressing itself, you'll see an inversion where the truth is the opposite of what it is telling us to believe. So you have this cult, its inner core is basically an expression of this distorted mind virus. What it's seeking to do is to absorb humanity into that same virus. And one of the expressions of it is what we call evil, which I say is the absence of love.
The inversion of live.
Yeah, but another expression, if you take the Native American description of Wetiko, is that it has and it works in the subconscious. It works in the subconscious for a simple reason, that it's hiding from the conscious mind. Because once the conscious mind, say I'm manipulating you behind your back, I can go on doing that for as long as I like, as long as you don't know. Once you consciously become aware that I'm manipulating you behind your back, I can't do it anymore. And it's the same with this virus. Once you become aware of it, and you become aware of its influence on you, your perceptions, your emotions, and all the rest of it, it rapidly loses its power over you. So it works in the subconscious, and this whole cult agenda is played out in the human subconscious mind.
I know. I mean, we're going to go deep into mind control. The
subconscious mind is what they're after. They're all the time putting in perceptual states, perceptual programs into the subconscious mind, which the conscious mind is not aware of. And then they filter through to the conscious mind, and the people think that they are coming to their own conclusions and their own thoughts. And you see this currently very clearly with the with this virus hoax, where you'll see people who are giving their opinion of what they think is going on. This is their conscious mind thinking they've worked it out and they've come to these conclusions. But what comes out of their mouth is the official version of events. So that's gone in here and come through to the conscious mind as my opinion. But it's actually not their opinion at all. It's what's been planted into their mind by the constant repetition of the same story. So what the Native Americans talk about with this Wetiko mind virus is that it has the effect of making the conscious mind blind to everything, basically, but convincing the conscious mind that it's not blind. And like I say, so many things have come to the surface in this period of this virus hoax, where you can now see in front of your eyes in human behavior what's been going on in the subconscious level all along.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to go into mind control. I know you've done research into mind control. I mean, it's one of my experiences, not a label. I am a hypnotist, so I understand quite well how all this programming goes through the subconscious. But I mean, I've followed your work for quite a few years. I mean, I look at it, so I make up my own mind, and
Sure.
I agree with you on 99.99999 of all your work. I mean, you've sometimes said something, well, I don't agree with that, but 99.99 I agree with you. And so I've looked at your work at the bloodline, so the nature of reality, so how can shape-shifting be possible? So I just wanted to ask you out of curiosity, so I know your intuition doesn't take you there because it's not important, but like, is someone like Donald Trump a reptile?
I'm not going there.
No.
I mean it serves no purpose.
But I love your work.
No, but it serves no purpose. It serves no purpose because what we need to know massively now.
I know.
Is where we're being taken, who is taking us there, and how we're being taken there. Those three things are absolutely vital. Set as three. And you know, is Trump a reptile? Is the person a reptile? Well, I mean, it's not a place I'm going to go. But what people like Trump are, and even Gates, they're still gophers. They're still people that have been placed in positions to do a job on behalf of people that they themselves are terrified of. So if you look at Trump, whatever his mentality, he's been put in there to divide and rule America. If you look at the documents where people laying out how you transform a society into a communist society.
You've quoted Yuri Bezmenov.
Yeah, but if you look at that in general, if you look at documents written and books written by communists on how to transform human society, one of the things that they say is don't target faceless bureaucracies and faceless corporations. Get one person and focus all your basically hatred, but all the ills of the world on them, all the ills of your country on them, because it's like what the Nazis said about propaganda.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple, and the simpler it is, the more you will manipulate to believe it. So here you've got Trump, who's been brought to power at the same time as this 1% created, funded, woke mentality, fiercely anti-Trump, has come more and more to prominence. And what they've done is played one against the other. So they've reduced political debate in America to do you like Trump or do you hate Trump? Love Trump, hate Trump. And that's again another expression of the Nazi keep it simple. So he's a pawn, whether he knows it and he knows how he's being used.
What does he know?
How would I actually know exactly what he knows? There's no way.
But we know that the Rothschilds know way more.
Oh yeah, but that's they're way. Trump's not even in their league.
I know.
He's been brought in to do a job. Same with Biden and Kamala Harris. They're just gophers. In fact, the Biden-Harris ticket that's now going to run against Trump is a classic, because you've got Biden, who has tremendous psychological problems and cognitive problems, which are obviously getting worse all the time. You just to see him speak, and his running mate is an incredibly vacuous. What's your opinion, Kamala? Well, what would you like it to be? Kind of person who's got no substance whatsoever, and if they got in the White House, they would be the most obvious vehicles for another force that you've ever seen in politics. So, but Trump, for all his bombast and all his, I'm in charge, I'm in control.
Yeah, I know you've quoted me. They brought him in to give Israel everything Israel wants and to focus all the attention, as you've said, from the communist propaganda, to focus all the attention on the capitalist, on the xenophobe, on the racist, on the sexist, and that's how you feed the woke agenda. Yeah,
they've divided America, and they're increasingly dividing this country. I mean, this is the irony. In Britain, we have a Conservative Party, headed by Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, and we have a Labour Party. And the Labour Party has been taken over by woke. So it's basically the British version of the Democrats. And then you've got the Conservative Party, which kind of claims to be the British version of the Republicans. But if the leader of the Labour Party, a guy called Keir Starmer, who spends his life on his knees pointing to Tel Aviv, if he'd have been in Downing Street in the last few months, he would have done exactly the same that Johnson's done in terms of the lockdowns and everything.
Yeah, they're all following the same agenda worldwide.
Yeah, so we have the same agenda, but it's promoted in a different way to give you the impression you've got choice in politics. The only real difference between the two, to take the American example, is rhetoric. And one other thing with Trump. Trump has a constituency which got him into power, which are people who have been forgotten and ignored by politics for literally, the generations, basically.
What they call the Forgotten America.
Yeah, and the Forgotten Americans, and a lot of them are white working class and etc. In urban areas, and the black working class in urban areas. And a lot of them, the vast majority of them, supported Trump because Trump was, when he was going for the presidency in 2016.
He told them what they wanted to hear.
Yeah, he told them what they wanted to hear. He was speaking their language. And
sorry, do you think from inside the cult someone would have told Trump, go and tell Alex Jones what he wants to hear and go and persuade Alex Jones? Well,
they would have. I mean, when you look at the person who is the personality, well, that's what appears in front of the cameras. But the real power is in the advisors around them. So he would have been advised, obviously, to go for that because he wasn't going.
So you think someone would have said, go and persuade Alex Jones, and tell him what he wants to hear?
Well,
I think.
Well, what the reason that Trump agreed to an interview with Alex is because obviously Trump wanted the constituency that Alex talks to. He wanted Alex's audiences. Well, I mean, why wouldn't he? When you're going for that demographic, you're going for that that forgotten America. Of course, you're going to try to get access to communicate with those people in every way possible. And so he told them what they wanted to hear, and he got in. Because, I just want to finish this point.
Yes.
Because he has to, at least until the next election, when he doesn't have to win another one, should he get in, you have to at least pay lip service to what that constituency wants. So in that sense, you're going to get some pushback, at least, if only rhetorical pushback, against what this woke agenda is, which is the cult agenda. Whereas a woke government, which would be personified by Biden and Harris, will be full-blown woke. There won't be. They don't have to appeal to Trump's audience overwhelmingly. They don't. They know they won't get it anyway because they're diametrically opposed to what the woke agenda is. So they don't have to pay lip service to that at all. They will just come in with full-blown woke, and it will be open borders. It will be political correctness gone crazy. It will be censorship gone crazy. And America, as it's come to be known, will disappear. It will disappear. It's disappearing before our eyes now, my God.
It is.
But it will disappear in one period of the next Democratic government, whether it's in November or whether it's the next time. But the next time the Democrats get in, America will disappear. And I'm not talking as a pro-Republican or a pro-Democrat. I think the whole political spectrum's a load of old crap and nonsense.
It's all on the postage stamp.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm sprinting away from it like you are.
Yeah, they're basically two masks on the same face. But like I say, the rhetorical level of those masks has to be different, or even more people would suss. Actually, it really doesn't matter who you vote for, because the same force gets in and nothing ever changes. So if you look at Trump and you look at what he said in 2016, and then you look at what he's done, the woke agenda has continued to expand in the United States. Things that he said he would do to push it back, he's not done. And you know, I say to people, don't listen to what politicians say or anyone else come to that. Look at what they do. And Trump has talked a good story, but he's not acted one out. And like I say, if Biden and Harris got in, well, it wouldn't be them getting in, it would be those that control them getting in. America will be over in one term of that government. Finished, gone. Everything you've ever thought about America will be gone.
All right, so relating to Trump, the next election, and I wanted to ask you a bit about, I mean, following your work and doing my research, I agree with you that they know years in advance who is coming in.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you about Iran, Third World War, and the Civil War in America. What do you think will happen in this next election? Will there be an election? I mean, as for Trump, I mean, you've quoted Kathy O'Brien and many people. I mean, she was talking when she was raped by Bill Clinton and all these people. They could hear them when Ronald Reagan was president. They could hear them speaking that 8 years in advance. They knew Bill Clinton was going to be the next president.
Yeah.
And they know way deep in the shadows. And as you've said many times, they can see through time. They know who is going to be president and who's going to win.
It's all planned long before.
Yeah, we've quoted Albert Pike before.
Yeah, I met a lady in Canada many years ago.
Arizona.
No, this was someone else, and she worked for the government, and they were trying to bring in at the time the NAFTA free trade agreement between America and Canada, or the first stages of it. And she was asked to come in the dead of night and through the early morning to work on this. And she realized, well, two things. One, that what was in the NAFTA document, the version of the NAFTA document that was going to be signed, and the version of the NAFTA document given to the politicians to decide on were not the same document, right? So the politicians were there thinking they were representing the people, some of them anyway, thinking they were voting on this the terms of the NAFTA agreement, and the one that was going to be signed was not the one that they were voting on. But the other thing, is why I raised the point, the other thing she said is that while she was doing these overnight secret operations, she says she saw a biorhythm chart. She said it was like a biorhythm chart. And what she saw was different events and people coming to power. And that's what played out, basically.
Where did she see this?
Well,
on a screen?
Well, she saw it in documents that she came across, because she was working with high-ranking politicians.
Yeah.
And she described it as biorhythm chart, where so-and-so comes in then this happens, and it was a projection. And this is what is happening. So when even, I look at the alternative media, and so many believe that Trump was an aberration, that somehow he got in because he was a maverick. Never did. You see, he started off in early 2016 facing 16 other candidates, right, in the Republican Party.
He was put right in the middle of the stage on Fox News on the debate.
Yeah, the whole thing. And if you go to the Democratic side, in the same election, it's now been well exposed with leaked emails and etc. that the Democratic Democratic Party hierarchy,
hijacked the...
Yeah, they stopped Bernie Sanders getting the nomination against Hillary Clinton and made sure Hillary Clinton got it. Now, if the Democrats can do it, the Republicans can do it, but they didn't do it. So there's no way that he wasn't brought through to be what he is.
Yeah, it's all known way years in advance. I mean, there's this book written in the 1920s and 1930s saying that something about Trump's, what's the little one, Baron Trump, that he's going to be the last president of America. I mean, how did they know in the 1920s that Trump was going to do something with the presidency? I mean, it's all known way back in advance. Anyway.
Yeah, and the last thing Trump is an outsider. I mean, his.
I mean, you've quoted, you've mentioned Jared Kushner and his connections to Netanyahu.
Oh, big time.
I mean,
lifelong.
So I don't know what year he got married to Melania. Was it 04, 05, 06? But who turned up at the wedding? Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Netanyahu. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you know, Jared Kushner is a massive infiltrator of the Trump camp.
He went to the fucking Bilderberg meeting.
Yeah, on behalf of the forces that run Israel, which is a cult known as the Sabbatean Frankist cult, which is their front man in the public eye, but another gopher really compared with the hierarchy is Netanyahu. And you know, Kushner's father was a complete crook. He went to jail, and he's known Netanyahu since way back. And
is it known in advance that Ivanka has to marry Jared Kushner?
Well, put it this way: you've got a massive operative for the cult, not least the Sabbatean Frankist expression of it in Jared Kushner. He is literally a lifelong friend of Netanyahu. Netanyahu used to sleep in his bedroom when he visited his father, and you've got Netanyahu coming to power in Israel. Then you've got Trump coming to power in America. Well, I say power, you know, the illusion of power, but official power. And Jared Kushner, who is a very close associate, absolutely close associate of Netanyahu, marries into the Trump family. I mean, that is taking coincidences to quite a ridiculous level. But this is how it is. You see, so many of these marriages among the elite are actually arranged marriages.
You've talked well about Princess Diana and how she had to marry.
Yeah. They are arranged marriages.
That's known way in advance.
Oh yes, way in advance, and it's not to do with you look at even openly, right? You look at the royal family history, not just the British royal family. I mean royal families in general.
Well, they're all the same one, but yeah.
Yeah, ultimately, yeah. But you have marriages all the way through history between royal families, which were not about the attraction or the love between the two people. They were building alliances, political alliances between countries and dynasties, and that's not stopped. It's continued, and there's no way that Kushner marrying Ivanka Trump is a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's obviously part of the whole thing, and those two together have massively influenced Trump, and even those things that I think Trump, to an extent,
slightly push it back.
Would actually like from his own like way of looking at the world, he would like this to happen. You see time and time again, it's Kushner that's been pushing back, and I've read a lot about Kushner. I've got a book about him behind me. And he's a very, very dark entity, but he's still just a gopher representing the cult. And basically he has been a minder of Trump. But you look at the Trump administration and you'll see an enormous number of people would put Israel as their number one prime country, and not America.
You cannot parody it anymore.
No, it's just the ratio is laughable, really.
Yeah, I was following him. I don't know if you know him. what's his name? Nick Fuentes. Have you heard about him? Nick Fuentes. He sort of came into the alternative media in the US. He got censored quite rapidly. He was talking about, I'm for America first. Like, I don't give a shit what happens in the desert. I mean, I'm not anti-Semitic. I just don't give a shit what happens in the desert. Let's leave Israel alone and focus on the US. And there was this like kind of civil war between Trump supporters for pro-Israel and anti-Israel. I mean, the pro-Israel, I mean, you could not parody it anymore. They were asking to the lads openly, would you put America first before Israel? I mean, there was this fun question that you would have liked. At one of the rallies, they asked him, fun and light-hearted question. His name is Charlie Kirk. He said, because he's seen Trump quite a few times. So you were in Jerusalem a couple of months ago. You gave a speech there. Was there any fun dance parties after the speech? Because I've heard that Israelis are quite well dancers. I mean, that was hilarious for me because you've gone way deep into the dancing Israelis. But I mean, I just wanted to bring that up because I found it really funny. But what I'm going for is that they would not say they would put America first before Israel. I mean, they were insisting, well, you put America first. No.
There's certain things that are in your face, but like I say, this Wetiko mind virus, one of its the traits it imposes on people is they can't see contradictions and they can't see the obvious. So, if you look at the current situation with the virus, a lot of people are looking at it and going, "It's crazy, man." But a large number of other people, they're looking at the same information, looking at the same situation, and they just simply can't see the obvious. And in terms of Israel, what you've got is a country of about 8 million people, 2 million of which are Arabs. And then you look at the power it has globally. You look at the money that is handed to it by the American taxpayer, by the government, not least military. Look at any other country in the world with a comparable population and look against its influence on world events.
Yeah, I've gone deep into your stuff about
it's
70.
Incredible. It's
and
incredible. The power that Israel has is insane.
During the whole pandemic, while we were on lockdown, now you go on Google Maps and Google Palestine. It ain't there anymore.
No, but the point I would make, and it's an important one, is that if you look what happened during the height of the lockdowns, some of the most severe of all were in Israel. This is not about Jewish people and the rest of the world. It's about a cult, and that cult has contempt for everybody, including Jewish people. It has the Sabbatean Frankist cult has particular contempt for Jewish people, even though it's manipulating their society. So the hierarchy in Israel answers to the cult, as the American hierarchy answers to the cult. And time and time again, you see on the news that there have been mass protests against Netanyahu by Jewish people in Jerusalem and Israel in general. And so you are you're not dealing with Jewish people bad as a whole. You're dealing with the cult. And that's why I've said again and again in my books that no one needs to understand what's going on more urgently than Jewish people, because they're being played like a stringed instrument by this cult, by people like Netanyahu, who and Mossad and Shin Bet, the domestic intelligence agency, and the military networks. Israel's basically a military a militarized country. It's the military that drives things. When you look at that network in Israel, it's has as much contempt for the Jewish people of Israel that it has for the rest of the world. And it's important to make that point, because what this Sabbatean Frankist cult does is try, and very successfully does, present itself as representatives of the Jewish people. And thus when you expose the cult, they then say you're anti-Semitic against all Jewish people. It's their defense mechanism. So they're not only controlling the Jewish community without the vast majority knowing, they're also using the Jewish community as a cover.
Defense mechanism.
Yeah, defense mechanism for what they're doing. And they target people like me as anti-Semitic for no other reason than I'm exposing the cult.
I know, I mean, I've followed your stuff for quite a while now. I've heard you've talked about the Anti-Defamation League. I mean, I thought that would have been like, just started a few years ago, but I saw your show on, what's his name? Secret Rulers of the World. What was it? John Ronson did it. You got to Vancouver with him, and the Anti-Semitic League were after you. That was 2000.
Yeah, well, I've been banned from Australia. I was banned from Australia in February 2019 on the say-so of one guy called Avi Abramovich, who runs a man and a dog organisation called the Anti-Defamation Commission, I think they call it in Australia. Obviously, it's a branch of the Anti-Defamation League. And one man, via Murdoch newspapers, got me banned from the country. That's a parcel. He can't say it because he doesn't speak English. You just need to let him in.
Do you want me to answer it?
Yeah, and he let me do it.
Yeah, you do it.
If you can put it just downstairs. I'm getting so many things delivered at the moment. Hello?
Come on.
Oh, hello, mate.